right, ladies and gentlemen, it looks like it is that time yet again for another episode in the exciting world of Greyhawk. And the visual should be changing momentarily. Okay, so we're going to go ahead. We're going to get started. This evening, for those of you that are just joining me, or those that have never seen the stream before, I am Greyhawk Vanis. We're going to be doing some painting this evening of the Warhammer 40k type. It's going to be doing some painting of some 3D printed busts here. There's been those of you that have been joining me for the last couple of streams are aware of the project that we are currently working on. Get that into focus here. The gentleman, a Adeptus Sororitas Battle Sister. Those of you who are familiar with the paint scheme will know this is a Order of the Bloody Rose paint scheme. And yes, this is my paintwork. Tonight we're going to be doing a bit of the cleanup on this, and we're going to be moving on to the other parts of the model. Yes, there's not just this bust. There also is on tap a waist piece that we will be working on. Unfortunately, the bottom two halves of the legs right here did not print correctly. So we're going to have to sculpt the legs for that, or we're going to have to sculpt a plinth, and that will be done on stream as well. But first, let's come over back to our main bust. So tonight we're going to mix us up some paint here. I'm going to see what we're going to start with first is this right here. Let's see, it'll be a little tough to see. We're going to get that in camera for you. This is the antique parchment from Apple Barrel. Give that a good shake. Let's say to viewers, if you're new here, feel free to introduce yourselves. Thanks for dropping by. I see we do have a new viewer, Violin Fanatic. Appreciate that sub earlier in the week. And not always. I use gloves when I have when I can get access to them. And the primary reason why I use gloves is I have a very bad tendency of mixing paint on my thumbnail, and it's a pain to get off. And then work starts asking questions, and then it becomes problematic, and it creates more issues than I'm used to, or more issues than I'd like to have to deal with. Hey, good evening, King Scald. How you doing today? How's life treating you? All right, get that mixed up. And I don't know if it might be a little hard to see it here on the cam, but the symbol here on her shoulder pad is, might be able to see it there better, a little better. There is a bit of yellowing on the wing right here, and it didn't quite work out the way that I really wanted it to. So what we're going to do is we're going to be cleaning that up a bit. And yes, I know exactly who you are, but for sake of Twitch security, I'm not going to say that. Like I said, there's a reason why we don't use, or we try our best to not utilize our real names here on Twitch. I know of a good number of horror stories that have evolved from the use of true names. Actually, a fellow streaming friend of mine, Mallowcat Meow, who we know, myself and Scald know off stream and in IRL, if you will, that had a bit of a doxing situation. Well, concur with her. So she, as well as a number of we streamers, have elected to go with that policy. All right, we're gonna come back here. I'm gonna put a little more paint on our mat right here. And for those curious, the little logo right there that's been covered up with paint, the Knights at the Game Table logo, that is a online painting guild that I am a member of. Now this is a paid membership. Full disclosure, I was granted a free lifetime membership to the guild as a result of catching this sponsorship deal, if you will, with them. And they sent me this very nice painting mat right here. And as you see, the paint will stay right there on it. It's not going anywhere. Well, that's and that's perfectly fine, Fnatic. But I'll say it's just my policy here. And like I said, because there's I find that it's enough of us follow that that same protocol, if you will, that it's just easier just to always follow it. So if you got Buff Barbarians in the same room, now I'm doing well, still debating ethics. Okay, well, good to know, buddy. Okay, doing some cleanup. And like I said, and if you guys, like I said, it's a little bit tough for me to hear it. I say if you guys have any issues with the background noise, any video issues, anything like that, feel free to drop me a line here in the chat and make it known. I'm gonna say if you are a 40K or any type of tabletop gamer like that, if you want to share what armies you're working on currently, what you're playing, feel free to do that as well. So I love to talk with you guys about the current situation of the meta, what kind of things you guys have on your painting table and on your craft table this evening. Okay, I'm going to continue to come in here with this very nice antique white color. And like I said, all we're doing is literally just going back over the wings again. And it looks a little thick right now. Yeah, I'm aware. But there is and I appreciate that. There is another paint that we're going to be using later once this paint dries. It's going to help pick out the details that this covers. Keep mixing that. And also I want to point out the fact that the paint that I'm using here, this white that I'm using, is literally Apple Barrel. It's literally probably the cheapest craft paint that you can get. I mean, Hobby Lobby carries it, Walmart carries it, a good number of people do, and that a bottle of literally of that size usually is somewhere between about 50 or 60 cent USD, and I am managing to accomplish this same look right here with just this very nice, very cheap craft paint. So it's like, it just goes to show that you don't necessarily need that. Well, actually, let me rephrase that. While the tools and materials are important to get a quality job, you don't need the most expensive stuff out there. And anyone that tells you otherwise is probably sponsored by the particular brand that they're telling you should use. As far as brands that I like I said, I'm kind of partial to Games Workshop's Citadel, only because of the fact that it's the paint that I learned how to paint on. The Nuns with Guns are pretty awesome. I tend to agree. Of course, I know you're more of a you're more of a Space Wolf player there. You filthy Imperial. He says in jest, knowing aware otherwise, that my other army is is Blood Angels. Okay, like I said, we're gonna continue applying this in thin layers over the wings. All right. Okay. Go in there and tap that out. Put a little hole. We're gonna put a little hole. There's a small skull right there. There's a skull in the eye right here. It might be tough to see under this light, which actually we can turn this light down a bit if it makes it a little easier. Yeah, I think that's gonna be a little easier right there. Yes, absolutely. I said now one of my favorites. I like most of my favorite painters on here. They are all partial to a company that they refer to called Monument, and I will be the first to admit that I thought their product was okay. Um, I'm still pretty partial to what you see right here on the table. And like I said, if someone was gonna gift me something, yeah, I'd be more than happy with Monument. But to bring to out of my own pocket, this right here is perfect, absolutely perfect for what I need. Okay. Well, you say they've been nerfed, but let me ask you this: Have you seen what became of them in Ninth Edition 40K? They're not. I won't say that they're unbeatable, but they are. They're extremely strong, especially the Thunderwolf Cav and the Wolfen are very very tough to beat. And a lot of it necessarily isn't that they've been nerfed. A lot of it has to do with the skill of the person that's playing them. Because while I will agree that not everything in your codex is useful, everything has a use, and it's how you decide to what you decide to make of that unit, how well it's going to work for you. Case point, there are the Sanguinary Guard from Blood Angels. You can take a Power Fist on them, but there's really not a good reason to do so. The only there's units in the book that can do that same job better for cheaper points. But that's not to say that that's not preventing someone from doing that, and just for sake of sheer thematic appearance. Like I said, and it's not a an impractical way to go about it, but like I said, there's better and more effective ways to accomplish what you're trying to do if you take that route. Okay, we're gonna go in here. We'll take a closer look, and what we're looking for now is we're looking basically for areas that need touch ups while this white right here is drying. Okay, so basically right here in the area right in the on the chest and the skull right here could probably use a little work. So we're gonna switch paints momentarily. Give that a good shake. Okay, sometimes I have to loosen this bottle up a little bit. It's the only thing I don't like about the apple barrel paints is you let them set for too long, they tend to settle, and it does take a lot of shaking to get the thing up and running. All right, so we're up to 4 viewers now, ladies and gentlemen. Appreciate you guys stopping by this evening. Like I said, if you feel so inclined, feel free to drop us a line here in the chat. Introduce yourself. We love to talk. Let us know what you're up to this evening. Are you guys any of you fellow 40K players out there, fellow Age of Sigmar players? Maybe you don't have the first clue what you're looking at. Maybe we can give you a primer briefly on what it is. Those of you who just joined us, we are working tonight on this Sisters of Battle bust. This is a 3D print of a custom piece, and there is more of this is available in the videos on my channel here. So what we're doing tonight is we're just doing most of the cleanup work. After we finish this tonight, we're probably going to be working on some assembly. I'm saying you guys will get to see that a little later on, of the Celestian Sacrosaints, also from the Sisters of Battle. Alright, so we're going to come in here, we're going to take that black, like I said, we're going to do some touch-up work right here around the skull. It may be a little tough to see it on the stream, but it needs a little bit of touch-up, just a few tiny little specks of paint right there that we need to get in there. Now, we're going to be doing the weathering on it at a later date, not right now, because we still need to get enough layers on here so that the weathering looks correct. Okay. I'm going to come in here, I'm going to touch, like I said, there's a few pieces right here on the breastplate of the corset here that needs a touch up, so we're going to take care of that. Okay. Right there. Right. A few pieces there on the shoulder pad. Could use a little love. Thin that down a tad. And while I'm thinking about this, guys, be aware that coming up in the future on the channel here, you can probably see it there in the corner of the screen, right below that Blue Ox Games logo, is an advertisement for the tabletop role-playing game Scion that's going to be coming up here very soon on the channel. The team and I are in the process of doing the pre-production on that. We have our characters have been created or on paper. We are partnering with a number of independent artists that are doing some custom character portraits, maps, and the like for the game. Like I said, stay tuned to the channel. That's going to be probably coming up sometime late spring, early summer. King Scald here is going to be participating in that. Seems like, and he appears that, from what he's telling me, he appears to be extremely excited for what's going to come of that. I said, for those of you that are not familiar with Scion, if you are familiar with Greek mythology, then you are aware of the story of the Titans. Well, in Scion, the Titans have somehow managed to escape the bonds that they were placed into by Zeus. And much as the gods did back in their day, they have decided to begin siring children again for assistance in keeping those Titans under wraps. So if that sounds like something you are interested in, if this sounds remarkably like Percy Jackson, then yes, it's very much inspired by that. But if that sounds like something you are interested in, feel free to give us a follow here. Keep in touch. We'll be providing regular updates as to how that's coming along. Okay. And like I said, guys, if you have any audio video issues that you feel that you're having, feel free to drop me a line and let me know about that. Like I said, guys, what I'm doing right here is literally I'm just doing mainly touch-up work on the blacks here. You see, black is such a really, really strong color, and it's one of those colors that has to be very carefully applied, because it just literally will change the entire outlook of where you're going with the paint scheme. Okay, so we're going to tap that in. once this bust has reached a level of where I'm pretty happy with it, we're going to be moving on to another project. It's going to be a Space Wolves bust. Haha. Well, Lurk is still Lurk. Satan does indeed preside. Welcome aboard, Satan. Scion for life, he says. And if I stand there, and if I am incorrect, correct me, sir, but it is my belief that Satan will also be joining us for the Scion game. That is going to be a co-stream between myself and Melocat Meow and Overlapping Magisteria, which I believe he may have his name. I believe he has changed. I'll have to make the correction on that. But that is going to essentially be a 3-streamer combo stream that we're going to be doing again. This is going to be coming up late spring, early summer of 2022. And if that's something you're interested in, feel free to drop on by. That game is from White Wolf, also known as Onyx Path Publishing. It is the same company that does titles such as Vampire the Masquerade, Werewolf, Wraith the Oblivion. If you're familiar with any of those titles, then you will be very familiar with the dice system. Okay. Alright, and as we change our background music here, I'm going to be honest, guys, I don't even know for sure what's about to come up. Clocks of Chaos. Chaos Clock. Okay. Tapping that. And I know, guys, I said those of you that are familiar with my channel, I don't stream on here as much as I probably should. But we are, as soon as my employer decides to get off their ass and do something about it and actually cooperate, you'll be seeing more regular streams coming up very, very soon. The idea is for it to be streams to be on Tuesday nights around this same time for a couple of hours every week. Once Scion starts, that may change. Again, those bridges will be burned when we get to them. Let's have that. Put a little water in here, get that nice and thin. Okay. And also, if you are familiar with Dungeons and Dragons, you also should, more than likely, you will also enjoy Scion. What we're going to be doing is we're going to be basically doing this in the style of a 1930s radio serial, inspired by such films as the Brendan Fraser version of The Mummy, Indiana Jones, The Shadow. Probably throw a little bit of Green Hornet in there too. Like I said, if this all sounds interesting to you, feel free to drop me a follow. That's coming up sometime very, very soon. Okay, tap in on the clip, back to the clip. Okay. Finish this up. Alright, and what I'm going to next, I'm going to go ahead and demonstrate a technique for the face here. And again, you probably can see it here on the cam. Slide my mic out of the way. That you may be able to see on cam here that her face is a little bit little tan there, a little dark. There is a trick that we are about to use to darken that even more and get some shadow effect under her cheek lines and under the nose right there. And literally what this is we're about to use a technique called a wash. And all that we are doing is we're going to take a certain color of paint. In this case, it's going to be almost a reddish brown. We're going to go ahead and give this a good shake, and then what we're going to do is we're going to apply this onto her face. And as it dries, it's going to dry into the recesses of the model, such as that scar in the eye right there. It will come in, it'll darken up that scar. And one of the cool things about this wash is that as it's drying, I can take a brush and I can move this wash into other places that I don't want it in. And we also are going to try it on the face first. And if we like the look there, we're probably going to come back and we're going to wash over the hair so we can get a little more definition in the folds of the hair. As you see, it's this white here. It's a little bit not. It's a little thicker than I really would like for it to be. So we're going to give this paint a good shake. And what we're going to use here, this is Reikland Flesh Shade from Citadel. And they do not come in these bottles. They actually come in a small pot, such as such. I put them in the bottles because they tend to last a little longer, and when they have these little droppers on them, you can have a little more control over how much of the paint that you are using. The only other issue is that they do occasionally like to get jammed in there. So we do have to come in and unjam occasionally. Now there also is a very small ball bearing that I have here in the bottle that's basically used to help agitate the paint. And those bearings will occasionally get jammed. So bear with me. We're going to go ahead and get us a small paper clip, see if we can unjam that bearing. I can still hear you. There we go. There's one. Okay. Alright, like I said, literally a paper clip. Place it in there so we can work that bearing back out. Oh, it is. Like I said, it's a process. It's a long process to really get these, to get the model into a good, acceptable phase, I guess is a good word I can use for it. And even after I applied this, even after applying this wash, it's probably still not going to be done. There's going to have to be, even more layering, more shadowing to make this thing, to give this thing some real life to it. Because as I don't know if you can tell or not, but her face has almost a weathered appearance to it. And while we're okay with a weathered appearance, but it's not quite time for that yet in the process. So, like I said, we're gonna grab a little of this, and you'll see this is already very heavily thinned. Don't have to put a lot of water into this mix. And we're gonna shake a little off right there, and then we're gonna come in here and start working this around the face. And I said, and you don't have to necessarily be very liberal with it, or you can be very liberal with this, because as it dries, it will start falling away from the raised parts of the model, and it'll begin hitting the recesses and the lower parts. And what's going to happen is it's going to shade everything for us. And then it will almost, basically what we're doing is we're cheating here, to be honest. Alright, and like I said, as you can see, it looks a little, that wetness that looks like it is on the face right there it's literally watered down paint. And like I said, and as this dries, as the water evaporates out of it, it's going to leave pigment behind. and then we can control where we want to place that pigment at as it dries. So we're going to take and watch this. We're basically going to see if we need to control this paint into any specific places. All right, and Fanatic, I just got your message. Stand by, and we'll talk about that here in just a second. For those, like I said, for those not familiar, Fanatic is a very close friend of mine, IRL. And if you're interested in doing that, feel free. And to be honest, there's enough of us here that can get you set up with that. And I actually have a gentleman, like I said, again, Magisteria, and again, I think he's going by a different name now, that might be interested in being a part of your stream. I know I would, because Latin is a base language for a large number of other modern tongues. We just have to be very careful and not be summoning demons on Twitch. But I know you well enough to know that you would not do anything. Not on purpose anyway. So what we're doing here, guys, let's see, is this has begun to dry. We're going to come back in here and we're going to start picking out some more of the eye. As you see, again, it's might be tough to see, but as it dried, it did cover up a bit of the iris here. So we're going to come in here and put that back in where it's supposed to be at. She is a display piece right now. She's a little too big to see table play. And actually, if you'll give me just a second, I can show you a measurement. And as you see, as Fanatic, you're aware of the size of a normal model is roughly about 30-32 millimeters. She is quite a bit larger than that. And as you can see from tip of head to base, she is roughly about looks like about 7.5 to 8 millimeters. And like I said, this is just the base. This does not include this is just the torso. This doesn't include the arms. It doesn't include the lower half of the body. And appreciate that follow, Satan. Let's say, did you happen to see what the D20 landed on when it went through? Giga Nun has joined the battle. Yes. She initially, what I had considered was having her as basically having her as the statuary model that's included with the Battle Sanctum. And like I said, we'll take a look at the rules for that here in a couple of minutes. But it's a very large statue that would be about this size, that whenever Battle Sister models are within a certain area of effect of that model, they get a on-table benefit. Yeah, I had thought about that. Let's say, and I've thought about that, and I thought about having one of the fellow modelers here, Fanatic, you know him. I had considered having him do some work for me to make a plinth for her, but I do have I've got the modeling clay over, literally off camera over there, that I could just end up that I just need to make up the mold for her. Okay, like I said, and her whites of her eyes are back. Okay, so that went a little bit further than I intended to it. So what we're going to do now is we're going to reach over to the other half of my paint station, And we're gonna grab one of the flesh colors, and we're gonna start cleaning up some more of that dark detail wash. And let's see, what flesh do we want to use tonight for this? Zandri dust, I think, is what we're gonna use this evening. I say, and again, these. It's too bad, bro. Because I've been trying to figure out if it's I've been trying to figure out if it lands on something, if it lands on the same thing every time, or if it's a if it's just if it's randomized or what. So now we're gonna switch brushes momentarily. And for those of you curious, these brushes that I'm using, these are this style is a Royal and Landical. That is a company out of the UK that they manufacture brushes for sale in the United States. And these brushes literally came from Walmart. Do have a set of very nice brushes, but I tend to use those very sparingly. But as you've seen tonight, what even like a cheap brush would just talent would I don't even say talent, but with technique, a cheap brush can accomplish a lot. All right, so now we've got our flesh color ready to go right here. Get it thin down, make sure we're how we want it. So we're gonna come in here, we're gonna tap in a bit of color right there around her eye. And this is a little darker than I was anticipating it was going to be. So what we're going to do is we're going to just redo a layer of this over the existing tan of her face. And then we're going to go back, once this dries, and highlight in with that original tan color. We're going to clean our brush. And that is literally nothing. That is literally bottled water that you're seeing me working with right here. Some people will tell you to use paint thinner. Some people will tell you to use lacquer thinner. Everybody's got their own little techniques of doing it. For me, that bottled water right there works just as good as anything. Okay, we're gonna start working on letting that dry. And then put our normal to the side. And we're going to come back momentarily. We're going to come back over to our flesh shade color. We're going to get a little of that on the brush. And we are going to thin it down this time. We're going to get it nice and very, very thin, because this is going to go over the white of her hair. There we go. And what we're going to do is we're going to take our edge, and if that brush, I don't know if you can see, but that's not that brush, is a bit of a squared off edge. What we're going to do is we're going to take this squared off edge right here, and we're going to tap the color into the folds of her hair. And rather than literally just sloughing this thing on, we're going to pull it down into the folds of the hair. Again, just the same way that gravity would cause her hair to fall. And the intent is that as it dries, it will also dry flowing downward, so that we can get get the definition of the curls of her hair to show through. And like I said, and the cool thing about this hobby, like I said, and this is what I'm doing right here, a lot of this is experimentation. And if it doesn't come out how I would like for it to, I literally can go right back in here and touch this back up with this white. Okay, we're going to clean our brush. Okay. she looks like she's drying up very nicely. Like I said, we're just gonna have to touch up that. We're going to have to touch up her skin color a little bit later on. Alright, so we're going to come over to our white, but we're going to switch over to a slightly brighter white this time. Rather than having this antique parchment color that we ran earlier, we're going to switch over to the same company. This is their ivory color. And you'll see that this is already heavily thinned in the bottle. How I've done that is I actually applied a bit of water and actual paint thinner in that bottle when I bought it, mainly so that I can have it thinned down to do what I'm about to get the technique that I'm about to use. So it might be difficult to see on camera, but in the folds of her hair right here, you see that it looks almost like dirt, almost like grime is been applied in there. And that's the flesh shade color will do that. But what we're going to do here is we're going to take this brighter than white color and we're going to start tapping in right here. And we're not going to cover it completely, and I'm going to show you why here in just a few minutes. All we're going to do is we're going to put a little bit in there. And this is a variation of if you've ever heard of the term dry brushing, this is a very a special variation that I do that is going to basically blend these colors right here on the model. Okay, come back and get a little bit more of the paint. And like I said, all we're doing is we're literally just tapping this into the highest parts of the model. And again, we're going to come back in with our thumb as this is drying, not as it is dried, as it is drying. And we're going to scrub over this with our thumb, literally just like this. And what that's going to do is it's going to create a dry brush effect on her, an effect on her hair. And it's going to kind of blend everything up for us very nicely. See, like I said, we'll see it right there, like that. See, kind of like that. That focus, and you see, now you can see more of the definition of where her hair, the folds of where her hair are. Okay, and we're going to do that same. We're going to put another layer of that down. We're going to do the same thing again. This is one of the benefits of having your paint thinned down like this, is that you can do little techniques and little tricks like this to accomplish these little looks and blends. This is almost like, if you've ever heard the term wet blending, this is almost like a wet blend, but it's more of what I refer to it as a dry blend. Looks like the white over here on the flare on the shoulder pads, looks like that white is ready to be worked with. Okay, tap in. Alright. So we're going to come back to that a little later. Give that a few minutes to dry. And I like what that does there is, guys, it kind of almost looks like she has, it almost looks like she's a dirty blonde with her roots showing through. Our resident sister was pious enough in the emperor this morning that she forgot to re-dye. Okay. So we're going to come back. We're going to pull up another white. This is going to be Wraithbone from Citadel. Let's see if I can get my camera to focus in. Come on. Okay, be that way then. this Wraithbone is almost an ivory color. We're going to pull a little out. Actually, no, let's try something. Let's do a little mix right here. Come on, camera. Focus for me. Excuse me, guys, as I deal with a technical issue here real quick. Let's do some adjusting here. Alright, looks like we can just pull it up closer. Okay, no problem. So I know it might be tough to see here. What we're doing is we're doing a little mix right here. We're going to do a little experiment with our color. And we're mixing that white, there's two whites there's two ivories together. And we're getting a very nice, very clean, almost like a cream color here. We're going to apply this in to the wings. And we're going to see what happens. So notice a lot of this painting hobby thing is exactly this. Audio's coming off weird, it's like a back echo. Okay. So that may work itself out. Actually, let's try this. Let me make an adjustment to my lighting. We'll see if that affects anything. Okay, there we go. Alright, there we go. Okay, we have our focus back now. This is a nice, very... Alright, so this ends up being a very cream, ivory cream color. We're going to go on the other side of the wing and we're going to apply that same thing again. Alright, so we're going to slide her off to the side for right now, and we're going to come in here. We're going to start working on another part of this model. This is the arm, or one of the two arms that we're going to be working on. This, once complete, is going to slot in right in there. And when assembled, she's going to have that pistol pointed off to the side, and she's going to have her other pistol basically the way that her head is turned. She's going to have that pistol pointed away from her. She would apologize with me. I don't have these things not quite set up for to be adhered yet, so when complete, this is kind of what you're going to see. And like I said, and then the other half of the body down here. Okay. But these are not quite ready yet, so we just got a little work to do. Unhook her. So now we get to come over and we get to do the fun thing that is painting red. And it's not as simple as it sounds. The Games Workshop red that I'm going to use here is called Mephiston red. It's a very, very, very highly pigmented red. So we are going to need to thin that down quite a bit. Get that out onto our painting mat here. Work. Start applying this, especially where you see it had already been applied. Now, I know it's going to look a little dark here, but we're going to go back over this with another layer of a slightly brighter red. And then because it's slightly brighter, has an existing red under it, it's going to make that brighter red even more bright. And we will see that here in just a moment as we begin applying, covering that. Get a little more red in here. We'll take another pass around. Let's see, and this one is also going to get cleaned up a little later too. Basically where some of the overflow of this red has come onto the black where it does not need to be at. Make this clean up the inside right here. And one of the other cool effects when using this very thin down acrylic is that it'll dry considerably faster when it's thinned down. And I can't tell you the physics of why that happens. I'm taking a wild guess here and saying that the water evaporates faster when it's thinner. Again, I'm not a scientist here. This is literally just an educated guess. It looks like I'm going to have to acquire some more Mephiston Red before the next string. Alright, is the audio sounding any better? Lighting look any different for you guys? Let's see, and if anyone's curious about the background music that I'm using here, I am literally using literally have YouTube playing in the background with just a very nice, copyright-free radio station. And like I was saying earlier about the gloves, this is why I'm wearing gloves, because I have a tendency when cleaning the brush, when I knock the water off of it, I have a tendency to run the bristles across my palm like that to help dry the bristles. And it's just easier to do it on the glove than it is to do it in my palm. Alright, so that should be almost ready. Yeah, it's getting very close right there. Okay, let's get our brush cleaned again. Alright, now for the next step of this red, we're going to switch colors. We're going to switch over to another red. Again, this is also a Citadel color. This is going to be Khorne red. And yes, it is named after the Chaos Demon, Khorne, for those of you that are familiar with that, not the band. So we'll go ahead and take a little of that out of the bottle. Get it nice and mixed. Should be already mostly thinned for me. Okay. And you will see as we go over this dark red with the brighter red, it's going to make it pop. It's going to pop it out very nicely. It's going to make it almost shine. Even though it's wet, it's going to shine. Obviously gray. You should know better than that. Say that, but they know what you mean. Alright, so this is going to alright. Okay, so as we put that down to the side, we'll be able to see that that one is on its way to being complete. Clean the brush.
going to switch over to a very fine detail brush here, and we're going to start working on some of the details on her gauntlet and up here back closer to the cloth. So we're going to switch back to, no, not quite that one now, not Celestia Gray just yet. Two letters difference. Not following there, hun. Between Corn and Mephiston. Alright, so we're going to come in here to our little skull. This right here, we're going to apply a layer of Wraithbone in here. And we're going to do the same thing. There's a smaller skull on her gauntlet right there. But we're going to come in here and start applying Wraithbone to it as well. And we're not too worried about covering those little holes in the skull right now. We're going to clean that up later. I'm gonna sound like Bob Ross over here with that beat the brush. Getting this, give it a good. Because he used paint thinner. He didn't use the water like I do. He can also afford oh yes, the band and the color. Makes sense now. So, our next step, we're going to start doing some of the detail work on the bolt pistol here. We haven't quite made up our mind what color we want to make the casing of this yet. Feeling we've been working with whites and tans so far. Let's stay in that same color. We'll come in here, we'll start applying this right there on the casing of the case of the gun. Like I said, I'm not all that worried about any bleeding over onto what's going to be the metal parts. We're going to get that cleaned up later. All we're doing right here is we're getting a very nice base color down on the casing. And then we're going to tap that. I beat the devil out of it, yep. He also had a rack. He showed it on the show one time. He had a rack there by his paint, by the bucket that he used to clean his brushes in. So he got that very nice metal on metal beating sound. Okay, we're going to switch over to the other side. So we're going to get that nice and thin. And what we're looking for here, ladies and gentlemen, with our thinness, we're looking for the consistency of skim milk, so we can let the paint flow off of the brush where we want it to flow into. Like I said, the brush at this point is just a tool to accomplish what we want it to do. It's a tool for a means to an ends. We may go back later and change the coloring of this casing, but even if we change it, may change it to more of a leathery brown. But if we do, this tan will actually help bring that brown out more. Okay, slide that in there. Take a look at the other side. It's starting to clean up. Yep, not quite water. And it literally took me years before I really was able to get a good grasp of, what it meant by skim milk thickness or thinness. And Mr. Ross actually taught me a lot about color theory and a lot about painting in general, as I think he did a lot of people my age and from my generation. I actually follow his channel here on Twitch, and usually a lot of times that's where we kick over to if his channel is on when we finish up the stream here. Take the water off. Pull down one. Let's check our background music. Seems to have moved away. There we go. We'll try that. Okay. So the red of our cloak has begun to dry to a nice, or at least dry enough that I feel like we can work with it. Yeah, that's good. That's very nice right there. Okay. So, and what I'm doing here, guys, is I'm checking basically to make sure there was a number that I had missed. Skim milk is not even milk. Skim milk is literally it's literally calcified water. That's why I can't drink it. That's the same way with it's the same reason I can't drink powdered milk. It defeats the purpose. Okay, we'll start looking for some lids here. Start cleaning some stuff up. I mean, it doesn't come out of the cow looking like that, so what is... Alright. Are we finished up for our painting for the night? I think we might be. I think we're going to call it a night on the painting. And we're going to switch over here in a few minutes. We're going to take a short break here. And when we come back, we are going to switch over to the assembly station. And we're going to be working on some Battle Sister Celestant Sacrosaints. So, feel free to step off, go grab yourself a bit of hydration, grab a snack, and give us maybe about 5 minutes break here. And when we get back, we will have the models out on cam, and we will be ready to go. appreciate you guys that hung around for the second half of our extravaganza this evening. As promised, the remainder of our stream is going to be an assembly session of the Celestian Sacrosaints. This is an Elite's Choice from the Sisters of Battle Army book. I'm going to put these off to the side. So, now you guys, let me give you guys a small close-up here on the parts. And for the question that was asked earlier about if the model was going to be table ready, we're gonna show you right here the average size of a model. And like I said, this is measured in millimeters. As you can see right there, basically where this blue mark is, that is the average height. So she is roughly 32 millimeters. With our previous model was roughly about 80. And again, we're gonna let you guys have a good look at what we're working with here. And they're gonna be rocking, this unit is gonna be rocking the halberds that you see here. You can run them with maces, but I prefer them with the halberd. Just seems like a better weapon choice to me. I'm gonna pick up, let you see the other half of that sprue. Give you guys a tour of everything. All right. So what we're gonna do first is we're going to take our clippers. Which actually, let me show you the tools that we're going to be working with here. Alright, here we go. Now let's get started. First thing we'll do is we're going to take our clippers, and this actually is a single sheet of models. We're going to do this right here. We're going to bend this sheet in half, just like this. And the reason I do that is mainly just to make it for storage purposes. So now these are the parts are numbered, and there is a sheet right here. No, they are these are not snap fits. No, they go together in very small pieces, and you do have to have glue to do it. I prefer myself, this is the glue that I use. Other people will use, plastic cement. Other people use, I've seen people use Elmer's glue and somehow make it work. But I'm very partial to this, to Loctite gel control super glue. And this is relatively inexpensive. This is, $4 or $5 a bottle. Will last you a good little while. So we're going to start in the corner right here, and we're going to be looking for parts 23 and 24. And it may be difficult to see on stream, but there's little numbers that are molded beside of the parts. And if you've ever done a Gundam model or any type of model car, you're probably familiar with that same concept. So we're going to find numbers 23 and 24. And we're not on that sprue. And you'll hear me use the terms sprue, frame, all of those terms. You may use them interchangeably, but they all mean the same thing. It's literally, a sprue is literally this plastic frame that the parts are attached to. Alright, so we have found part number 23. And we're still looking for 24. That could be on another frame. We're going to take a look. Where are you at, 24? You hiding from me. Normally they're right beside each other or very close, but I don't see it in this situation. There it is. Okay. They literally are right here beside each other. 23 is, let me try that again. 23 is right here. 24 is going to be that piece right there. And since I'm showing this, you'll see that this is a different brush than what you had seen me using. This actually is not even an actual brush made of actual hair. This is made of rubber. And the point of this is for glue application. Okay, so we're going to take our clippers and we are going to come in here. We're going to start removing these parts from their frame. You want to be very, very careful when you move these so you don't break or you don't craze any of this plastic. See, that was a relatively clean, so that was a relatively clean snip. Not completely clean though, which is why we have these. These are literally just files, literally made out of stainless steel. It's almost like using sandpaper. And we see that there is a very, and I do apologize for that slight burn right there. There is a small piece of bird plastic right there. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to start seeing if we can sand that piece, that burr out. And some people are going to ask, why would you do this? This is, a lot of it has to do with painting, and then another portion of it has to do with making sure that your surfaces are nice and clean and sharp when you start adhering these together. The glue will adhere to a sharp, clean surface a lot better than it will a surface that's rough like that. And it seems counterproductive. Roughing up a surface should make it adhere better, but for some reason the plastic that Games Workshop uses, that's not necessarily true. All right, we're going to come on this side and we're going to try do that same thing. And unfortunately, this one is flat enough that I might have to have the X-Acto blade on this one. Yeah, looks like I'm going to have to. So what we're going to do is we're going to use, this is just a basic hobby knife with a nice, very sharp stainless steel blade. So what we're going to do is we're going to come in here and we're going to get right here on the edge. And we're going to start to carefully nip that away. And you'll notice that I'm cutting away from myself. This is on purpose because these blades are extremely sharp, and I've seen some pretty nasty injuries occur as a result of cutting toward yourself. Sometimes you don't really have a choice, you just need the leverage, but it's recommended by everyone in this hobby recommends you cut away from yourself, and that's just safety pro tip, and safety tip number 1007 is always use caution when you're cutting away. Hey Geeky, welcome aboard, buddy. Good to see you. What you up to tonight? I say feel free to let us introduce yourself in the chat. We'd love to hear what you're up to. And like I said, all I'm doing here is literally I'm just doing this. I am currently assembling a squad of Secrescents for the Adeptus Sororitas army at the moment. Earlier we were working on a statue of a superior, and like I said, if you would like to take a look at that, that will be in the VOD. So you a model yourself there, Geeky? Are you into 40K? Anything like that? Okay. Alright, we're going to come back onto our sprue and we're going to be looking for that other part, which we determined was part number 24. Okay. Oh, awesome, awesome. Reaper makes some really good stuff. I actually use Reaper for practice, to be honest. And I've noticed I've used them for a lot of basically for the basically like your models that don't require quite as much attention. Which not saying that Reaper is a bad quality company; they're a great company, but the Games Workshop models do tend to have slightly better detail. So I use the Reaper models a lot of times for one-off character models for my for the D&D games, or for models that are supposed to be humans. Like this game has something known as an Inquisitor that I actually used a Reaper model to create that model. Got your first GW minis last year, Daughters of Cain. What do you think of them, bud? How's your thoughts on them? Quality? You having any trouble getting them together? Because the reason I say this, because the Age of Sigmar models are actually a lot more complicated and require a lot more skill than the 40k models typically do. And again, what I'm doing here is the same thing I'm doing with the other pieces. I'm coming in here and cleaning away this excess plastic. Mordheim actually never really died. There's not the same following for it now as there was at the time. But you can still find the material for it. There's still GW still sells it as a specialist game. Saying if you like Mordheim, you may want to look into Kill Team. It's a very Mordheim-esque. It's very squad-based combat, and that's extreme. Absolutely, especially with the way the cost of the hobby keeps going up. Absolutely. All right, like I said, and again, Geeky, you'll be interested in this. This is the adhesive that I'm using tonight. I've been using this quite a bit. The way, not that great at the cleanup, but the way they make them makes it pretty easy. You're referring to the GW models when you say about the cleanup there? Let's see, and actually, I also have a Blood Angels army that I play occasionally, in addition to the sisters here. So we're going to come here, we're going to start at putting the bottom half of our leg here together. And all we're going to do is we're literally just going to hold pressure on these two parts. And I'm thinking I may have not have applied quite enough adhesive to make this happen, but we'll see in just a couple of minutes. Yeah, it looks like there's a joint right there that didn't quite set up. Okay, so we're gonna keep pressure. Usually it's better with these kind of things. It's better that you use the less glue that you use, the better off you are. You can always apply more glue. Taking glue off is always a serious pita. Yeah, the GW models actually, I agree, they are pretty easy on cleanup, and a lot of it has to do, honestly, with technique and having good proper tools to use for the cleanup. If you're, they make a tool that will pull the mold lines off the model for you. I do not personally use it, as I find that this right here works just as good. But I guess if that's something that you're interested in, I guess different strokes, different folks.
but you know, for what GW wants for it. First time with Daughters of Cain's nice, but it's a pain to work with. Yeah, it does. It takes a little practice. Let me grab something. Let me step off stream here right quick, and I'm gonna grab another kind of adhesive that I also use occasionally. That you may want to take a look into this. That code that the flow is a little bit better for beginners. This is made by Testers, which is the same company that makes a lot of plastic military models. This is their plastic cement, and it comes in a liquid form. All you do is literally you just squeeze this bottle, and it'll come out in that end tip right there. And you see that's a very fine tip, and it makes it very easy to control where your adhesive is going. The only thing I don't like about these, and to be honest, it may be I might just have a bad bottle, I'm not sure, but the only thing I don't like about these is you have to squeeze the life out of this thing to get any of the glue to come out of it. Bottle cleaners. You use bottle cleaners for cleanup. That's new. I'm gonna be honest, I've never heard of that before. Like I said, now the files that I have here, literally, I don't know if you can see it, but I literally bought them in a 3-pack set from and they're made by Army Painter. And I think this set of files was like $7 or $8 US. I mean, they weren't outrageous, and it's the only files that I've ever used, and they've yet to fail me. And I've been in the hobby 10-15 years now, so I said I've also heard of people using makeup brushes for cleanup on these things too, but I mean I've not myself. I'm like I said, I'm just partial to a nice, good, sharp hobby knife. Okay, I'm gonna get that in there. Start pulling that out. Okay, so we're gonna go to our next part of the build. That was parts number 23 and 24. The next, as we look on our sheet here, it's telling us that we need parts number 25 and 26. And as I said earlier, usually these parts are right beside or very close to each other on the frame. In this case, 25 was right beside where 24 was. And we're going to start working on this. Yeah, I've seen people use that to take. Yeah, I agree. They do a good job of taking off the small parts, but it's just I guess it's just the way that when I got into the hobby, or the crew that got me into the hobby, that's just how they did it, and I guess it just I just learned how they did it and stayed with it. You put pencil grips on them because they hold on to the file and keeps your finger from tearing up. Interesting. Yep. All right, clean that up. Now again, we're going to keep looking around the model, see if there's any additional little nips or burrs that need to be worked on. There's one right there I see, right in the corner. And like I said, guys, I do apologize for for the camera setup. It's not the greatest in the world. It's what I could afford at the time, and I'm still working out, getting used to doing this on cam. So another thing that a lot of us like to do is like to take and put the models together. We do what we call a dry fit onto the model.
And what we're looking for when we do this is we're looking for basically right there. We are looking for places where the model is not going to line up exactly like it should. And that way we can put it together. We can clean those places away before the glue is even applied, and it solves that problem. You have sissy girl hands. Well, I'm gonna tell you, Geeky, I know quite a few ladies in the hobby that are actually better at this than I am. Case in point, Violin Fanatic here is a good friend of mine. She has sat in hobby shops with me and assembled models right beside of me, and they got them assembled faster and cleaner than I have. So, like, the size of your hands, I mean, it does, but it doesn't really have a lot to do with the hobby. Okay, so we're gonna pull those two apart. Ooh, we have a slight problem right there. And this is why we have our rubber brush. Because I don't know if you get a little our glue kind of started to bubble up right here in the corner. So the point of this rubber brush is to do that. So we don't have glue seeping out of the edges of the model. And we don't want glue seeping out of the edges because this glue is very, very difficult to paint over. So basically anything we do that can set us up for success in the future, we always are going to do. And as always, we're going to hold pressure here. Let our glue get set up. And like I said, Geeky, like I said, I do appreciate that follow, bud. Like I said, because we're, a small stream such as myself, every little bit helps. I say because it would be, what I'm really gaming for here is to get to a situation to where I don't necessarily have to be, working a full-time job and still be able to support myself. I know Twitch isn't, the greatest way to do it, but with the cost of this hobby that keeps going up like that, it's it would be nice to at least get some kind of sponsorship, to pay for the models. Oh, you're a Masquerade player. It's funny you mentioned that. I say there's a good portion, I have, looks like I have 5 viewers here, including yourself. And I know of at least myself, 3 of the 5, including myself, are all Masquerade players. I say I actually ran a vampire game online, actually, over YouTube a couple of years ago. Based out of North Carolina in the United States, and they seem to enjoy that. I say, what's your favorite clan to play? I know myself, I'm a Nazi and Ventrue guy, and I'm actually in the process of playing a Simis in a local game here coming up soon. It really is, Geeky. When I first started doing it, I'm going to be a first statement. When I first started doing it, I had a lot of trouble with manipulating the plastic, and like I said, they're very small parts, and it's time consuming.
And the thing that I do love about it is it actually has taught me a lot of patience with not just the hobby, but with everyday life. All right, and what we're doing here is we're taking the base that comes with the model. This is a typically, let's measure it and see. They usually are pretty good about doing this. This is usually a 32 by 30 base, or 32 by 32 base. Okay, so that's pretty 32 on that side. Yeah, this one's pretty dead on. Every now and then I'll see them that they're slightly off, but that one seems to be perfect. Alright, so what we'll do is we're going to start applying this to the base. If I can get the base lifted. Come on. Anyone else have this problem when they're putting their models together? There we go. Alright. And I've applied a small bit of glue to the bottom of her feet. I'm going to literally set her right there on the base. I love daughters. I love them, but it is so hard to get it, to find a storyteller that will let you play them. And I understand why. Having been a storyteller myself, they can get really powerful really quick. But at that point, it's up to the storyteller to work with the player to establish a baseline. Well, let me ask you this. You're a vampire fan. Are you familiar with any of the other D10 systems? You know, maybe werewolf or mage? And the reason I ask this is because if you want to take a look over in the corner there on the camera screen under that Blue Ox Games logo, that is a game that we have coming up here soon on the channel, and both Satan and Kingscald here in the chat are going to be playing in that game. That's a White Wolf game as well, and we're going to be playing the second edition of that. And while I'm on it, I actually forgot to do this. The Blue Ox Games logo over there in the corner, that is the logo for my friendly local. They are D&D, they do some vampire, they do heavily D&D, Warhammer, Magic, Yu-Gi-Oh, Cardfight Vanguard even. Hard to find those. They carry all of that. So Blue Ox Games, Greenville, North Carolina. You can check them out, blueoxgames.com. And feel free to tell them that Greyhawk sent you. And they'll get you hooked up with anything that you have an interest in. And they do ship worldwide. Apocalypse Werewolf, interesting. Which I noticed you mentioned Apocalypse and Masquerade. Have you played any of the New World material? Anything like Requiem or the Blue Book or Basic World of Darkness system, anything of that nature? And actually, Satan here is a really big, if he's still here, I'm not sure. Satan is a very big werewolf guy. Stand by here, ladies and gentlemen. Apologies, taking care of a personal matter there. Alright, while she is drying, we're going to go ahead and step down here to the next part of our build. And as I said, these guys can be built either with the anointed halberd that we see here, or with the mace that I'm pointing out here. Regardless, you get the shield. The mace, to me, I'm a bigger fan of. To me, it's just a better weapon. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and we're going to put on the mace on her arm, but we're going to leave that shield off. And the reason why we're going to do that is so that when we get ready to paint, if we put the shield on, it's going to cover up pretty much this entire side of her body. And it's going to make it very difficult to get in there and paint all of this really nice detail in there. 3.0, 3.5 D&D, Mordheim Vampire 2nd. You're a little old school in that sense, I guess. Not that you wouldn't try it, but come from a small place with almost no hobby geeks around. Yeah, I grew up on 3.0 and made the switch to 3.5 when it happened. But we're very fortunate that we live in a college town. And it's a college town that heavily embraces the gaming and geek community. Again, right there, over there, Blue Ox Games, right up in the corner over here somewhere. They actually, their store is actually a couple blocks down from the campus. So, like I said, we're going to go on to the next step. We're going to snip out the halberd here. And yeah, I know about that hobby geek. I come from a really small town too. As a matter of fact, I got interested in it in playing D&D again. It was the right in the heart of 3.0. Stargrave and Frostgrave. I'm not as familiar with them. I know the name. Never had a chance to really experiment with them. I've just I got into Pathfinder a little bit. And we got into the Mutants and Mastermind system. That one we really enjoyed. And like I said, my high school, we ran a almost daily D&D session during our lunch break. Oh, tell me about it. The only real D&D edition that I didn't really enjoy, honestly, was 4. But the reason why, I feel like the reason why I didn't enjoy it is not the same reason why a lot of people didn't enjoy it. To me, it was a very video game-ish, and I understand what they were going for. They were trying to make it feel like an old school dungeon crawl, and in a lot of ways it did. In a lot of ways it does. But it lends itself very much to the video game community. And again, not saying there's anything wrong with that style of play, but it's just, it's not my style of play. And it seemed like the difference where 3.0 and 3.5 was more of a balanced approach to where if you wanted to play a political game, you could play a political game. If you wanted to play, you wanted to be, combat hobos, you could be combat hobos. Whereas 4.0 felt very much to me like that you didn't get a lot of benefit, and you were not rewarded for thinking outside the box. Okay. Alright, so she is set up. Alright, like I said, and this is what we have so far for our sister here. And a little later, we're going to be going back in and we're going to be doing some, putting some flocking on this base. Absolutely. Absolutely agree, Geeky. So, by the way, it's been fun. Been fun having you in. Do you stream there? Do you stream, Geeky? If you do, let's find out if you do. Let's see what you've been up to. See if that's gonna work for me. Okay, so looks like that didn't go through, but yeah, if you stream, feel free to drop us a link here, and I'll matter of fact, let me go give you add a friend. All right, appreciate that. All right, so we're gonna move on. Put her off to the side. And just for an FYI, guys, we're going to be wrapping up stream here in about 10 minutes or so. And because it's going to be midnight my time, and I have to actually be at my other job, my real job in the morning. We're going to make our last little few additions here to the model. Go ahead and snap out this part of the head. Well, either way, I'm happy to have you. Just make yourself at home. I said, just, use common sense in the chat. The only thing I ask that you don't do is no heavy political discussions, and just keep it kosher. As long as you can do that, like I said, I'm more than happy to have you. Yeah, go for it. If you want to drop your Instagram, bud, go for it. I'm not stopping you. I don't care about self-promotion. I really don't. Actually, I don't mind it. At this point, streamers help streamers. So it's... Alright, and what we're doing here is one of the more fiddly bits of the model creation is getting that head put on. And even though she may not end, okay, and she is a little fiddly, so I might need to do a little adjusting here. Put in a little more adhesive, a little more glue in her joint right there, so we can. And again, we're going to put pressure there, so let that set up. Oh no, it's absolutely fine. I absolutely no. We have no. I have no problem with you being active in chat. I actually encourage it. And like I said, now just do keep in mind, I don't typically run a regular schedule here. I know it says Tuesday nights, but I don't typically run a regular schedule. I stream when I can. But typically, you will those that I have on the Facebook, I send out a message about a couple of hours before I plan to get on. And also, while I'm thinking about it, the Scion game I mentioned earlier, that we will be having a Twitch for that. If you, or excuse me, a Discord channel for that. So be on the lookout for that if you want to join up. Twitch says not today, Satan. Okay, it's... Well, like I said, well, at least you tried, buddy. Like I said, normally it normally lets you... I may have to go in and make adjustments to that. It may be set so only mods can drop links. Let me see. Well, like I said, you're welcome. You're welcome here anytime. Anytime, D. And trust me, you'll find a lot of my viewers they're chatty too. So just don't let it. It's definitely not a bother. Alright, so that should be, pressure should be adequate there. Yeah, that'll do. Alright, so she is going to be put to the side pretty much overnight. She's going to have to let the adhesive set up on her. And I'm going to go ahead and start looking at closing down for the evening. And before I do, again, I'd like to send out a special thank you to my sponsors, or my at least half partial sponsors. You've heard me speak about Blue Ox Games. I actually do not have an Instagram as of yet. Like I said, this isn't my primary income. So like I said, I do work a full-time job, and that takes up the majority of my time. Probably will have one in the future. It's just not something that we've the team and I have looked at yet. But as I was saying, I sent out a special thank you to Blue Ox Games. You heard me speak about them earlier. And like I said, let's see if we can get a very special message that they have asked me to provide to you guys. As soon as I pull that up. Okay. Alright.
Just one.
Seeing it now.
Wow, if
Like
Blue
I said,
Ox
Blue
has
Ox Games
this,
are in
what
Greenville,
else
North
do they
Carolina. They are
have?
my local game shop. Harry Franks, the owner, been providing service to the community
If it helps,
going on
BlueOxGames.com
20 or 30 years now.
That would help.
BlueOxGames.com pretty much has
Just
all
this.
of the hobby needs, hobby gifts that you're interested
Everyone
in.
has a geek inside
There's
them.
the
Unleash
information if
yours
you
at
wanna
Blue
check
Ox
'em out.
Games.
Again, tell them that Greyhawk sent you. And also, you've probably seen it on my game mat here, Knights at the Game Table. They are a online 40K and Age of Sigmar guild. They are a painting guild. It is a service, and it's not a free service. It is a little pricey, but you pretty much, I feel like you get what you pay for, especially when, full disclosure, they did give me a lifetime membership in exchange for promoting their products here on the stream. Head on over to knightsatthegametable.com. Like I said, they have battle reports, painting tutorials. They also, as a member of Knights at the Game Table, you also receive a 10 to 15% discount on a variety of products that the store that they partner with, Bastrop's Games in Bastrop, Texas. They are a partner with that store, and members of Knights at the Game Table do receive somewhere between a 10 to a 15% discount on items ordered through Bastrop Games. Again, knightsatthegametable.com. And in closing, again, I will go ahead and plug the Scion game one last time. Again, that's going to be coming up sometime in the early summer, late spring. If you're interested in more information about that, just keep your eyes tuned here to the channel. Maggie, welcome, buddy. I hate that you're getting in late, like I said, because I'm actually getting ready to wrap it up here. But I appreciate you stopping by. We were just discussing geekdom here with Geeky. He's a new follower to the channel. And tonight, just in closing, we worked on the Sisters of Battle Sacrosancts. Sacrosancts, I'm sorry. Got a beginning of that started. We did a little more touch-up work on painting the Battle Sister bust. And again, I'd like to thank everybody for stopping by. I thank our new followers, Geeky Taniki D&D fan. This one, and Violin Fanatic has joined, as well as, how was it? He said it's Satan Presides. Let me get your name correct. Yes, Satan Presides. Also a new follower here to the channel.